Major funding for this remastered episode of Telehell is provided by Dave's Archives. At Dave's Archives, he personally transfers, archives, and preserves classic commercials from the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s and shares them with you. Don't forget about his Friday night live stream on, well, guess when? Go to davesarchives.com. By the Cirque Archives, whose mission is to preserve and present classic commercials and retro media without distraction, noise, or overcomplication. Look for them on YouTube at Cirque Archives. Again, spelt with a Q. By Kier's Nostalgia Corner, a collection of commercial compilations, retro nostalgic things, and other random things that come to mind. Look for her on YouTube at KIERS Nostalgia Corner, and don't forget to check out her live streams early in the week. By Kev the Ripper on YouTube. You thought he was gone for good, didn't you? But he's back. He lives to rip another day, and now you can find him on YouTube still, but this time at KEVRIPZZZ. Just add 2 Z's to his previous handle and you'll find him. And by the very generous benefactors who grace us on our Patreon at patreon.com/telehellpodcast, including Rhonda Farrell, Brian Hennigar, Rick Kalacki Jr., Chris Michaud, Meredith Morrissey, Rabbite, Spare Parts, and Neil Weinstein. Thank you. Welcome to an episode that will have more than its fair share of enhancements. When we originally put this show together, we wanted to focus specifically on the invention of the laugh track and the various misuses that it had on TV over the years. But as time went on, we realized that any sitcom that prompts the audience to laugh should also be put under a further scrutiny. With that said, stay tuned throughout the episode because we will be adding more entries to this list that are less about the laugh track and more about when the appropriate time to laugh can be, whether there's an audience present or not. To that end, in order to make sure we cover all the bases, we are officially retitling this episode The Laugh Track and Other Inappropriate Laughs. With that said, let's start the show with content that originally aired on April 19th, 2020. In these times of trouble, tragedy, and crisis, sometimes it's best to look to the simple things to keep us from going completely off the deep end. For a lot of us out there, the best way to maintain that sanity is by simply enjoying a good laugh once in a while.
Make 'em laugh, make 'em laugh. Don't you know everyone wants to laugh? My dad said be an actor, my son, but be a comical one. They'll be
Television especially has enjoyed its fair share of comedic moments over the decades that people will watch again and again, simply for the fact that no matter how many times you watch it, it will never not be funny. Of course, not every sitcom ever made in the TV world is filmed in front of a live studio audience, which is unfortunate because when you're a show that's trying to make you laugh and there's no genuine reaction, these results can often range from awkward to upsetting to downright cringeworthy. Those results are brought to you courtesy of one of television's most insipid creations. Yes, the laugh track. The artificial merrymaker that's designed to condition a viewing audience to laugh at something, even if the moment in question has about as much humor as the late Stephen Hawking trying to do stand-up comedy while trying to stand up. Oh, trust me, it's only gonna get more awkward from here.
They did hurt my shoulder a little when they threw me into the bathtub full of Jell-O.
Jell-O? A bathtub full of Jell-O?
Oh, sure. Jell-O, yogurt, tapioca. They all have their own MOs.
I never heard of such a thing. Well, we get this all the time. Some of the real sickos go for shredded wheat.
And now, this is Telehell.
Remastered.
While we are going to get to our list momentarily, we feel that it may be necessary to do a bit of a primer first before getting into it, because in doing research for this episode, we've discovered that the laugh track on television has had a somewhat extensive life cycle, which can only mean one thing. It's time once again for a Telehell history lesson. But don't worry, we promise to be brief here because there's a lot of awkwardness we gotta get through later. That said, we begin our story in the time before television even existed. Medieval Europe, the 13th century. Top torture experts at various castles across the land banded together to come up with new and exciting ways to scald intruders at their respective gates. Oh, wait, I already used that joke last week. Very well, let's try the 1940s instead. The earliest known use of a simulated audio track with recorded laughter could be traced back as far as 1945, when the owner of a rural Florida radio station, Jack Dadswell, created what was known as a laughing record, to be played at various exhibition and stage shows throughout the South whenever the crowds weren't big enough to elicit a proper response to whoever was performing on stage at that moment. A more refined version of the laughing record would come about 1 year later, when sound technician Jack Mullen brought magnetic tape from Frankfurt, Germany to the United States. These tapes would be capable of storing up to 20 minutes worth of high-quality sound, perfect to be rebroadcast over and over on various radio shows of that era. So advanced was this technology that the legendary Bing Crosby took advantage of the device so that he wouldn't have to perform his weekly CBS radio show every single week, live. But that's not all he and his company wound up doing with the tape technology. As legend has it, one of Crosby's guests one week was a Southern comedian named Bob Burns. According to Jack Mullen in a 1981 interview, quote, Burns threw a few of his then extremely racy and off-color folksy farm stories onto the show. They recorded it live, and they got enormous laughs, which just went on and on. But we couldn't use the jokes. Today, those stories would seem tame by comparison. But things were different in radio then. So, scriptwriter Bill Morrow asked us to save the laughs. A couple weeks later, he had a show that wasn't very funny, and he insisted that we put in the salvaged laughs. Thus, the laugh track was born. End quote. But while there was now a way to insert a sweetened sound effect into parts of a show that faced a bit of a lag, there were still a few kinks to work out of it. Cut to the 1950s and the infancy of television, and along with it, the long reign of the CBS network at number 1.
CBS presents this program in color.
Sound technician Charlie Douglas noticed a major inconsistency with the pre-recorded laughing tracks, namely, various uses of awkward timing. Either the laughs wouldn't start at the right time, or because the technology was still somewhat primitive, the canned laughs either lasted too long between bits of dialogue, or not long enough. Fortunately, Douglas was working on a solution that would help fix those problems. While working for CBS, Douglas built a prototype laugh machine that consisted of a large wooden wheel 28 inches in diameter with a reel of tape glued to the outer edge of it containing recordings of mild laughs. The machine was operated by a key that played until it hit another groove on the wheel, thus playing a complete laugh. However, because it was constructed on company time, CBS demanded possession of the machine when Douglas decided to terminate his time with them. The joke was eventually on CBS, however, because the prototype machine fell apart within months of use. A perfect place to add in one of those laugh tracks. Fortunately, Douglas developed an expansion of his technique in 1953, when he began to extract laughter and applause from live soundtracks recorded, and then place the recorded sounds into a tape machine. One that, as a further refinement, also had features built in that would allow for the track to fade in and out at more appropriate moments where needed, thus giving various TV shows a more refined production when they eventually aired. Charlie Douglas would pass away in 2003 at the age of 91, but by then, his legacy as one of the most important sound designers in show business history had become secure. Without going through all the rest of the boring details, further refinements were made to Douglas's device, which by then had gone on to have a number of colloquially quirky nicknames: the Laugh Box, the Charlie Box, the merrymaker, and so forth. Eventually, more sounds in addition to laughter would be included with each upgrade. Things like this, and this, and let's not forget this, and of course,
now cut that out, that doesn't count.
But you get the idea. And at the risk of leaving stones unturned, we must acknowledge that the credit for adding a lot of these extra sounds, moods, and even subtle shifts in tones goes to one Mr. Carroll Platt, who was a protege of Douglas and came up with his own version of a laugh box in the 1970s, thus concluding our Telehell history lesson for this part of the show. Otherwise, from the 1940s all the way to this very day, Charlie Douglas's crowning achievement has been able to provide home viewing audiences an opportunity to laugh at jokes whenever a TV show dictates it to be so. And while most of the time, the execution of the sounds were handled with expert timing, there have been a number of times throughout TV's vast history where pushing the button on the Charlie box proved to be highly questionable. Which brings us to the real reason why we're here in the first place. One that we'll get to
after the break.
We've got to strengthen our knees. Strengthen our knees for comedy. We've got to strengthen our knees. Strengthen our knees for Ha, the new TV comedy network. Ha meets comedy round the clock, every day of the week. We've got to strengthen our knees. Strengthen our knees. Strengthen our knees for Ha. We've got to strengthen our knees. Strengthen our knees for comedy. We've got to strengthen our...
For TV comedy round the clock, turn to Ha, the new TV comedy network.
This week on Telehell's premium content of The Damned.
Now it's just like, and now you're in charge of the little children. And I'm like...
Oh, God, I can't believe the script I wrote.
Oh, yeah, no, it's...
Total coincidence.
Total coincidence. You know what, though? Sometimes some of them make me feel like they are omens. I'm like, oh, boy, kid.
No.
But to be fair, that includes my own. Every once in a while, I'm like, oh, you're gorgeous and bright and beautiful and perfect, and also you've got the devil in you. It's fine. It's fine.
The only way to listen to Telehell's premium content of The Damned is by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Telehell podcast. For just a few bucks a month, you can listen to our premium content and get some swag along the way. Once again, that's patreon.com/Telehell podcast. And now, back to this week's torture.
Since this is a list, we, of course, have to lay down some ground rules. Rule 1. As is the case with most of our lists, they're not definitive, nor are they written in stone. Also, there's a good possibility that we're going to leave out something that we may have forgotten about anyway. If that's the case, give us a buzz on our social feeds at Telehell Podcast, and we may correct our errors at a future date. We're just limiting things to 7 entries on this list because there have been so many bad examples of using the laugh track, we just don't want this to be a 19-hour show. Rule number 2. While there's a good possibility that some of the shows we're about to cover were actually filmed in front of a live studio audience, that doesn't mean that those same shows aren't guilty of using obvious audio sweetening techniques to enhance them. With that said, if a show does not explicitly mention their studio audiences either through end credits or a voiceover saying so, or the show uses those obvious sweetening techniques, those shows will be put under consideration. But expect those examples, if any, to be low on the list. Bearing in mind, this is really more about the artificial laughs that are obviously put into post-production. Of course, if we screw up and point out a moment that used genuine audience laughter, again, please let us know on our social feeds at Telehell Podcast. It's the only way we'll learn. Rule 3. The moments in question have to contain an obvious form of clashing. And by clashing, we mean situations where the featured laugh is added either in awkward or unnecessary ways. Say, for instance, in the middle of a dramatic moment on a sitcom, or other situations where it's completely inappropriate to include them in the first place. And Rule 4. More than likely, some of our candidates will be drawn from a pool of another one of the more horrid creations of the TV industry. That of the very special episode trope. Which, yes, they too will get their own day soon. But consider this to be a head start for if and when we ever get to that subject. But in terms of this subject, it's more than a coincidence that very special episodes have a high threshold for canned laughter, even at the most sensitive or poorly acted of moments. To not include any of them would be like having Laurel without Hardy. They just go together so well. And since this is a list, this is one of those times where we downplay our 9 circles. For now though, let's just say that the laugh track is a device that, for all its good intentions, elicits a false sense of humor to its audience, striking the bell not just for fraud, but also for heresy on account of the fact that the gods of humor are clearly being mocked thanks to this device being used as a false prophet. Plus, more often than not, a lot of these laugh track decisions are often made by the networks that air the shows in the first place, whether show creators agree with them or not. So we get a 1-2 punch of network wrath and treachery. Altogether, the laugh track on the whole will get 4 out of 9 circles of Telehell. And now that we got that out of the way, let's not laugh till it hurts, but rather be forced to laugh as we're hurting.
And now, but I digress. An unscripted, unrehearsed, unreverbed, and, at times, unprepared look back at classic episodes of Telehell, and any additional backstories that can be wrung dry from them. Here's your host. What's his name?
Hi, me again, and welcome to this special mid-episode mini edition of But I Digress, the mini show that we have in our Patreon that goes over some of the things that we may have missed in certain episodes the first time around. Why are we digressing here instead of over there? Well, 2 reasons. First, we needed a cheap way to promote our Patreon in a seemingly organic way. And second, because we feel the need to finish what we started in this episode 6 years ago. Regular listeners to the show might know that whenever we do lists, we usually aim to make it a top 8. Why only 8? Because top 10s have been done to death since the dawn of time. Top 11 lists are co-opted by somebody who remembers it so you don't have to, and I'm pretty sure there's somebody out there that's got a lock on top 9s as well. All in all, 8 has been my lucky number if anybody asks. Which brings us to the question of, why was this episode a top 7 list instead of 8? And truth be told, when we first wrote the episode 6 years ago, we were originally aiming to cover broader cases of when the laugh track was being misused, and not just specific episodes of TV shows, even though we ultimately did so on the last few entries of this list. More on those later. That being said, I want to give credit where credit is due to the inspiration for this episode in the first place. Back when the pandemic was starting and I was looking for ways to kill time before shifting into a normal work environment again, I found myself watching a lot of content on YouTube. One of those content makers is a channel that you might know. Funny or Die.
You don't have to raise your voice.
You pay you!
I can give you half.
You pay. No, bitch.
Hey, don't talk to me like that, okay?
I'm tired of this crap.
Look, I thought I was clear in my email that I needed a couple weeks.
I worked too hard.
Can I just get 2 more weeks?
The house that Will Ferrell and Adam McKay built is still very much in business. And during the pandemic, not 1 but 2 of their micro-series kept me from going insane. A series of bite-sized TV episode capsules known as A Very Special Episode and
Zach Morris is trash.
Binge-watching both of these shows was pretty much the inspiration for wanting to do an episode on just how and why the laugh track became more of a nuisance on television rather than a helper, especially when it comes to moments where laughs were beyond unnecessary. I just didn't want to crib too many notes from either show to pad out our own content. With that in mind, we'd like to present to you, as our first bonus feature for this episode, some honorable mentions that we left out the first time. Some of the other times when they either should have given the laugh track operator the day off, or they might have oversweetened an existing audience's reaction. Afterwards, we'll resume with the old show where we left off with the addition of a brand new entry somewhere in the middle of our main list. Oh, and by the way, as much as most people would want us to, we're not going to include The Big Bang Theory. Partly because it's been proven on multiple occasions that the show used a live studio audience, and also because I'm probably one of the few out there who actually thinks the show is okay, in small doses, and not in weeknight binge watches on TBS. With the reminder that we will be including shows that had live audiences but used obvious sweetening techniques. Please don't send any angry letters. Here now, as promised, are those honorable mentions, including the episode of Boy Meets World where Sean joins a cult.
Which one of you brainwashed nuts validates parking?
The episode of Fresh Prince where Will gets shot.
I'm totally in your debt, Will.
Come on, man, you don't owe me nothing.
Yes, I do. If you ever need anything, it's yours.
Well, could talk to Uncle Phil about, sliding me into his will. 40, 50 G's,
The episode of Smart Guy where his sister faces racism because we couldn't find the episode where Smart Guy and his friend accidentally befriend an internet creep.
But in this world, honey, there's always going to be people that can take logic and facts and twist them to their own point of view.
So you want to go down and hit her now?
Maybe that's not the best way to handle this.
The episode of Family Ties, where Tom Hanks gets drunk and slaps Michael J. Fox back to the future.
You guys have any idea what it's like to be washed up before you're even 30 years old? Huh? Olga Corbett, the Mouseketeers, Ned Donnelly. We're all had.
The episode of Growing Pains, where Matthew Perry dies a whole 3 decades before he's scheduled to.
Well, you don't look so bad.
To tell you the truth, I don't feel so hot. I got so many tubes and wires in me. I get HBO now.
The episode of Family Matters where Laura buys a gun.
Oh my God, those are guns!
Keep your voice down.
Oh my God, those are guns!
The episode of The Golden Girls where Betty White bangs a guy to death.
Rose got lucky.
Not so lucky. The man in your bed is dead.
Only to find out she was that man's side piece.
There's a married dead man in my bed.
Serves him right.
Ma.
He lied to her.
I don't know why they do that. Don't they know we'll sleep with him anyway?
And because I don't want to spend the next few weeks wearing my vocal cords into dusty nubs, 90% of every Full House and Blossom episode ever made.
Whoa, 7 condoms a day, all right?
How rude.
Which now brings us, finally, to our remastered list. Like I said, somewhere in the middle of this list, we will put in our newest official entry and make this a top 8 list once and for all. But since the numbers 1 through 7 were already recorded, we're just going to have to jam it in there awkwardly somehow, so stay tuned. In the meantime, we resume with an episode where I sounded much younger than I do currently. Enjoy.
Number 7!
We begin this list with someone who's gifted at many things. Unfortunately, his ability to write comedy should have come with a gift receipt. Aaron Sorkin may be a genius when it comes to dramas, movies, and stage shows, but comedy may be one of those areas he needs to stay away from.
Yes.
Yes, you're breaking up now. Hello? You're breaking up. Now you're not there at all. There's nobody there at all. Yet I'm still talking. All right.
Number 7 on the list is the first season of his critically acclaimed yet vastly underwatched attempt at a sense of humor, Sports Night, which aired from 1999 to the first half of the 2000 season when it got unceremoniously dumped by ABC. This was the only sitcom he ever created. And not unlike another entry later in the list, this was one of those shows that had far more serious undertones than could be expected from a half-hour sitcom. In other words, a laugh track on an Aaron Sorkin project made about as much sense as Carrot Top performing Shakespeare.
Natalie's right. This is professional television. Surely there's some kind of strict procedure that's followed when something like this happens.
Absolutely.
What is it?
Well, first, everyone stand up and see if you're sitting on it.
2 minutes back.
I'll find it.
So I have a complaint. 2 complaints, actually. You're cold. 3 complaints. What are the first 2? I haven't put these in any order. Okay. I haven't numbered them. I'm not conversationally anal retentive the way you are.
I'm conversationally anal retentive?
Yes, indeed.
And what are your other 2 complaints?
If I did number them, certainly high on the list would be the climate in this room.
Yeah, I think your position's pretty clear on that.
60 seconds back.
Well, what are the other 2?
And before you guys go nuts, we just want to say that we here at Telehell actually legitimately enjoyed the show. We're not knocking it by any means. But while the show itself was very much an entertaining program, ABC would eventually realize too late that its audience, what little of it that was watching it in the first place, didn't need audible cues distracting them from otherwise densely told stories. In a 2015 interview with an Australian TV network, longtime Sorkin collaborator Thomas Schlamme, and shame on him for not referring to himself as Tommy, by the way, lamented on just how hard the battle was to keep the laugh track off the show.
There's a great article in the New Yorker magazine that a guy named Tad Friend came and sort of watched us at the beginning of that show for reasons we didn't quite understand. And it was all about our battle to drop the laugh track, to do this half-hour television show. The way I got the show was I met with Aaron. I had read the script. I loved it. And he said, how would you ground it a little bit more? And I went there and I said, here's how I'd like to do the show, which was exactly the way we ended up doing the show by the time we finally... We never won the battle with ABC, but we got closer.
It disappeared gradually.
It's basically the end is Uncle Morty is laughing in the background. There's like one guy. That's the laugh track. I mean, it was like, give me the lightest in that machine that you can give me to give a laugh.
Of course, by the time the laugh track was removed in the show's second season, people were legitimately confused as to whether this half-hour program was supposed to be funny or not. Maybe if they took some hallucinogens, they'd be able to figure that out.
Oh, I can see the air. And you know what else? I finally get Aaron Sorkin's Sports Night. It's a comedy that's too good to be funny. Dude, you're tripping.
On the plus side, at least The West Wing started in the same year. So at the very most, Aaron Sorkin had his insurance policy in place.
They're gonna laugh at
Number 6. Number 6 on this list is Saved by the Bell.
When I wake up in the morning and the alarm gives out a warning, I don't think I'll ever make it on time.
No episode specifically, just Saved by the Bell. Probably the only sitcom that ever existed that all but guaranteed that not a single intentional laugh would be had in any of their half-hour installments. Of course, now we tend to laugh at the reruns these days for completely different reasons, whether it be dated fashion, slang, or references, or the heavy-handed attempts at lighthearted life lessons. And, lest we forget, the underlying fact that, in retrospect,
Zach Morris is trash.
But that's in hindsight. Taken at face value, however, the show can be best described using one minor phrase as uttered by one of my comedy heroes.
Not funny!
And the ample use of the laugh track on this show only further drives the point home. Some of the best examples I can think of where the laugh track people got a little too carried away at Bayside High include various moments of mispitched woo.
Excuse me, do you believe in love at first sight?
Random acts of violence.
There you are, Zach. I've been looking all over for you. Time out! Time in. Oh, Mr. Belvin, I'm sorry.
Various con jobs in the making.
Zach can't come to the phone right now. He's on his way to pick up his season tickets to detention. If you'd like to leave a message, please wait for the beep.
Beep.
And let's not forget that all-time favorite, culturally insensitive appropriation.
And after Abraham Turtle escaped from slavery, he became a conductor in the Underground Railroad.
They had subways during the Civil War?
So, with all these examples of just how awkward the laugh track's inclusion is on this show, why exactly is it low on the list? Well, like we just said, we can now laugh at this show for completely different reasons. And every time they stick in one of those laugh tracks, the show will have at long last earned a legitimate, albeit charitable laugh the honest way. After all, pointing and laughing at something still counts as laughing at something, doesn't it?
Number 5!
There's a number of unwritten rules in television. The biggest of which is that sitcoms are meant to be a half hour long, while drama programs are meant to be a full hour. Not unlike Aaron Sorkin and his ill-fated night of sports, MASH is one of those shows that we simply cannot say one bad thing about, except for one very obvious thing.
Who put water in my gun?
How do you know it's water?
This isn't even... Where is my gun?
We sold it. We beat it into plowshare.
It's not funny hiding a person's weapon.
For pretty much all of its run, MASH straddled the line between the two while maintaining a 30-minute time limit for 12 years. Even though, by all accounts and purposes, it has long been considered a sitcom regardless of its dramatic undertones, which makes the inclusion of the laugh track during its first 5 seasons slightly awkward.
Busboy, set up table 27 for the young man in the green tuxedo. We usually hold it for Cesar Romero, but he sprained his mustache.
Sirs, with your permission, would you stop horsing around, please?
You hate the table?
No, the table's fine, really.
Can I picture a Shirley Temple or a Roy Rogers? Is it true about those two?
Come on, would you?
Yes, the source material, both the original book and the 1970 movie adaptation, had its moments of dark humor within the already dark themes of the Korean War. But at least the movie version had the benefit of not having a laugh track in the hopes that the audience would be able to figure out which parts were supposed to be the funny ones or not.
This isn't a hospital! It's an insane asylum, and it's your fault! Because you don't do anything to discourage them!
What do you want me to do?
Put them under arrest! See what a court-martial thinks of their drunken hooliganism!
But for the first 5 years of the series, a similar mindset was in place that ultimately doomed Aaron Sorkin's show a few years later. The fact that because the show was a half hour, and it happens to air in a block of programming that was wall-to-wall comedy, that the network asked the show to follow suit in trying to condition people to laugh, much to series creator Larry Gelbart and show developer Gene Reynolds' chagrin. And yet, for the show's first 5 seasons, they had to put up with it anyway. And sometimes in the most unlikely of places.
You mean I can't see people? I'll want your confessions tomorrow night.
Well, maybe they can write their sins down on pieces of paper and slip them under the door.
Possibly.
And then we can auction off the pieces of paper and make a fortune for the orphanage.
Thankfully, cooler heads eventually prevailed, and the laugh track was dishonorably discharged from season 6 and onward. And let's just be glad that they decided to cease using the laugh tracks there, because I shudder to think how their final episode years later would have turned out if they kept them.
She killed it. She killed it.
She killed the chicken.
I didn't mean for her to kill it. I just wanted it to be quiet. It was a baby. She smothered her own baby.
They're all gonna laugh at you!
Number 4!
As we just mentioned in the MASH entry, one of the unwritten rules of television is that a sitcom is supposed to be 30 minutes, while a drama is usually an hour long. But for our number 4 entry, we need to emphasize the word usually, because even dramas have certain exceptions to the rule. By all accounts and purposes, The Love Boat is often considered to be a drama program. partly because for most of its run on TV, the show usually aired at 10 p.m., a time slot that 9 times out of 10 often gets filled by dramas to begin with. But there's a stark difference between The Love Boat and other shows that are of a grittier nature that often call 10 p.m. their home. In other words, you wouldn't see shows like SVU at an earlier hour, save for that one year where it had to move to 9 p.m. because, heaven forbid, NBC didn't want to go through Jay Leno withdrawals. That being said, I think we can all consider The Love Boat to be, at best, a light drama. Yes, it had its moments of levity, but at its heart, it's still a show about people falling in and out of love in various circumstances, most of which are certainly not wacky in their ways.
Since the divorce, I don't get to see as much of him as I'd really like. Hold on 1 minute. Chip.
My dad still thinks Fleetwood Mac is a hamburger chain.
I never thought Fleetwood Mac was a hamburger chain. Thought it was a Cadillac.
The same could be said for another 70s TV staple, the original Seventh Heaven, known as 8 is Enough.
Oh, 8 is enough to fill our lives with love.
Right there, mister. You can't leave the house.
Why not?
You don't have your wallet, do you? Jeremy had it.
I found it on the floor, honest.
You didn't say you didn't. Let me see that again.
Oh, come on. I don't think one more day of being a fugitive from the law is going to make any difference.
Now, come on, Dad. You wouldn't allow one of us to break the law, would you?
Yeah, you have to set a good example.
Only this time, don't make a face when they shoot it.
I didn't make a face the first time.
Granted, the use of the laugh track there is far more subtle, but the point remains. Why would an hour-long drama program, whether it has lighthearted moments or not, even have a laugh track on it in the first place?
Gopher, this isn't Swan Lake. Grip the paddle firmly and hit the ball fast and sharp.
No, she's not swatting flies. Here, you're gonna make her tense up like that.
You're gonna make her fall asleep like that.
What you're both making me is nervous.
As you probably guessed, this is one of those selections that's up on the list due to reasons of principle. Unless it's a variety show from the 60s and 70s, an hour-long program should not have a laugh track. We're not saying they can't, but as sure as the sky is blue, Santa Claus's suit is red, and oranges have some shade of orange in them, hour-long TV series should not have laugh tracks, no matter how good their intentions are. And the same goes for our next pick.
Welcome aboard, it's love.
They're all gonna laugh at you.
Number 3. If you're a 4-camera sitcom that's filmed without an audience, at least you know why you need the laugh track. But if you're a show that relies on hand-drawn and painted animation, is impossible to put on in front of a live audience, and you still need to condition the home audience to laugh at certain times,
you're missing the point entirely.
Hey, Scooby! Scooby, Scooby-Doo, looking for you. Scooby, Scooby-Doo, where are you?
Granted, not all cartoons with a comedic slant can make everybody laugh, but the very idea of an animated series using a laugh track reminds me of this old Simpsons joke.
Is this episode going on the air live?
No, Homer. Very few cartoons are broadcast live. It's a terrible strain on the animator's wrist.
The point being, that animated series should not ever have to use the laugh track. The audience is not that stupid. And yet, the people at longtime Toon Factory Hanna-Barbera thought to themselves, if we added a laugh track to our shows, then the audience will have no choice but to think we're funny. How wrong they were. Which is why the 1970s Hanna-Barbera cartoons takes a seat at number 3 on our list. Much to our shock, we've discovered that at least 40 shows that the Hanna-Barberians put together not only use the laugh track, but they actually opted not to use Charlie Douglas's laugh box, and instead used their own custom-made devices to make the sounds. Believe it or not, the sounds they used were even worse than anybody who used Douglas's device or even Carol Platt's. Mostly because they used the same audio tracks. Over.
What can I say? It's a case when the fans love that man. Ooh. What'd that say? What'd that say?
And over.
Looks like he's developed a taste for photography.
Yeah, he wants seconds.
And over.
Hey, Hey, that was a neat trick, Jabba. Oh, how did you do it?
Where is he? Where is he? Where's that dumb shark that looks like me? Huh?
Without ever freshening the sounds over time. This problem was so noticeable that in the mid-1990s, sound engineer Paul Iverson lamented on the lack of versatility, saying, quote, "The Hanna-Barbera laugh track did more to give laugh tracks a bad name than Douglas's work could ever have done. Using the same 5 or so laughs repeatedly for a decade does not go by unnoticed, no matter how young the viewer is. All it takes is watching an episode of Josie and the Pussycats alongside Josie and the Pussycats in Outer Space, and it's painfully obvious. It's a shame that a company as powerful as Hanna-Barbera, who at its peak practically owned Saturday mornings, thought so little of their audience by dubbing in such an inferior laugh track for so long a period." End quote. Well, he has a point. Having a laugh track on an hour-long lighthearted drama is one thing, but putting them in cartoons that are not filmed in front of a live or even animated studio audience is all but pointless. And it's even lazy considering just how few laughs there are to interchange between the shows. That, and let's also not lose sight of the fact that
it's a laugh track being used in cartoons.
Seriously, if you're supposed to be an animated comedy series and you need a laugh track to accentuate yourself, then perhaps the show that you're using it on was never funny in the first place. Unless, of course, you're high as balls as you're watching it.
Hey, Scooby! Where are you?
Over here!
They're gonna laugh at you! Number 2!
Whereas the previous entries dealt more with misplacements and awkwardness, the last 2 entries on this list deal with pure cringe when it comes to how their shows use the laugh track. Truth be told, I was considering flipping a coin between this one and the next show to decide which one would get the number 1 spot. Because between that moment and this one, there are certain levels of cringe that are only punctuated to both new highs and new lows thanks to the use of the laugh track. But after watching both of these shows back to back, I quickly realized that flipping a coin might not be necessary. Because while each of these shows stand out in their own unique way over how rampant the laugh track is used, this next show somehow still managed to take the high road in the grand scheme of things.
Streaks on the china, never mattered before. Who cared?
You know what this song is. The theme song to Mr. Belvedere. A song that ironically turned out to be the best known song of Leon Redbone's entire career. But that's not what this is about. This is about an episode that took place in 1986. Just as one of the most insidious diseases known to mankind was just beginning to grab the attention of the world.
Everyone has AIDS! AIDS, AIDS, AIDS! AIDS, 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 AIDS! Everyone has AIDS!
Sorry if that's in bad taste, I'm just trying to lighten the mood, as best as I can, because this is about to get really dark really fast. As the story goes, one of Wesley's friends at school contracts the disease through means that are not quite explained at first. The audience takes the news thusly.
He was supposed to play Lincoln, but his parents had to come and take him home. Why? He got caught with this stuff called AIDS.
AIDS?
Oh my God. Boy, he must really be in trouble.
A little more information comes through during the show, and the audience continues to react accordingly.
He thinks that getting AIDS is like being caught with chewing gum. What are we going to tell him?
I say make something up. Listen, Wes, this AIDS thing you told us about. Do you know what that is?
Sure. I mean, it's real bad, and you get in real bad trouble if you get caught with it. Sort of like shoplifting. You saying you might be sick for a whole week?
Maybe 2.
Boy, no school. Lucky duck. AIDS stuff is the worst thing you could get. I mean, you just get sicker and sicker. And then your arms and legs start falling off. And then it's all over, and you're dead. Now you're making all that up, Dennis. I am not. My mom told me, and she's a beautician.
These reactions culminate in what has gone down in history as probably one of the single most awkward insertions of laughter in this or any other television series. And that's intentionally.
Everyone, you remember Wesley's friend, Danny?
Oh, hi, Danny. Hi, Mrs. Ons, Mr. Ons.
Hiya, champ. How's it going?
Well, I got AIDS, but other than that, I'm doing pretty good.
Thankfully, the only reason why this show doesn't claim the top spot was because they ease up on the laugh track after that particular moment. And the show eventually gets down to the business of setting the record straight on a disease that people were still back then trying to fully understand. We get the usual tips on how you can't get AIDS by kissing or holding hands, that it's usually contracted by sex, or that in the case of this episode, the victim wound up getting it as the result of a bad blood transfusion. Of course, that was all the information we knew about in 1986. Medical science has evolved a great deal since then, and more treatments have become available to help curb its spread. Does that make the use of the laugh track in such an episode excusable?
Well, I got AIDS, but other than that, I'm doing pretty good.
Certainly not. But at least this show was able to save a little face, which is far more than I can say for the subject at the top of our list. But before we revisit that moment of uncleanliness, it's time for the newest addition to our list.
They're gonna laugh at you! Number 1!
Before we proceed, I'm going to make a command decision here. I did check the credits and any available statistics about this program, and from what I saw, there was no mention of it being taped in front of a studio audience. So I'm going by blind faith on this one, in spite of the possibility that I could still be wrong. But even if there was an audience in attendance for this, I'm still going to include this on the principle that nothing about the following should ever be laughed at. I don't care what decade it was, or if times were different, or even if the event in question is not 100% the definitive definition of it. And with that in mind, we also need to slap this part of the show with a content warning. This entry and our official number 1 entry both deal with various aspects of sexual misconduct and assault. Though in the case of this entry, more the latter than the former. And if you heard our Worst of SNL Volume 2 episode, you should already know our stance on using such assaults as a laughing matter, in that it should never be one. No matter the context, no matter if the actions are being implied instead of being outwardly expressed, no matter if it's a bad guy who quote-unquote deserves it as a punishment of some kind, there is absolutely no excuse for anybody to make jokes about sexual assault, which makes me all the more baffled as to why this would be done on a TV show that was otherwise wholesome. I'm glad that the 1980s sitcom Too Close for Comfort is getting the overdue flowers that it justly deserves. Underappreciated in its day, the show is now available on at least 4 streaming services and finally has a complete series DVD release. Just like the show's title, it was very much the TV equivalent of comfort food. Between the much-missed comedy of the late Ted Knight, the brassiness of his wife, played by Nancy Dussault, the eye candy of his 2 daughters, Lydia Cornell and Deborah Van Valkenburg, and let's not forget the Steve Urkel of the early 1980s, Jim J. Bullock as Monroe Ficus, probably one of the all-time great wacky TV neighbors.
Did you hear that?
And therein lies the subject of this entry. It was the show's 5th season. By this point in the series, Monroe was living in the family's house as a paying tenant, earning his pay by being a security guard at his local mall. In an episode titled, "For Every Man, There's 2 Women," Monroe doesn't come home from his job until early the next morning, for reasons that the people who wrote this episode would consider hilarious.
Monroe, what do you mean that you cooperated?
I'd rather not talk about it.
Does anyone know what's going on here?
I think I do. Those 2 women were attracted to Moreau. They desired him and helped themselves.
Help themselves to what?
To Monroe. They had their way with him.
It may be common for a sexual assault to take place on a given TV drama, but it's rare when it happens to a character on a sitcom. And it's even rarer when the situation happens to a man. And yet, they treat it as a joke anyway. And the audience laughter dictates for it to be so. From the police looking at Monroe with eyes that say, yeah, sure.
Why, their lawyers would have a field day in court. And so would the newspapers. This poor kid here would wind up going through a worse ordeal than he did last night.
But how bad was it? Really?
Well, the big one did break my beeper.
She broke your what? Part of his equipment.
To the quote-unquote hilarious climax of the episode where Ted and Ike confront the women who attacked Monroe, and again implying that there are hilarious results to be had.
Hey, Monica, we got company. Heat up the Jell-O.
The kid must have had a good time the other night. He brought his old man around.
I'm not his father, and this is not a social call.
Lighten up, baby, and sit down.
It's body time.
What?
I'm sure the show had the best of intentions. And if you actually see the show on streaming somewhere, there are moments when Ted Knight brings up the fact that there is an unfortunate double standard when it comes to male sexual assaults.
Why? It's the same crime whether the victim is a man or a woman.
No, I don't think it's really the same, Dad.
Yeah, I agree.
I can't believe what I'm hearing. What kind of double standard is this?
It's not a double standard.
Oh, yes, it is. You three are always talking about equal rights, and now, suddenly, only women are attacked?
But otherwise,
man, did they miss the mark.
Never mind the fact that this was still a somewhat sanitized assault that took place on a sitcom, it certainly did not warrant the sound of laughter by any means. That would make about as much sense as adding a laugh track to an episode of SVU, which I'm not going to do because we already did that joke with the MASH clip, and I still feel a little unclean about that. Of course, it's one thing when sexual misconduct is happening to an adult. It's an even worse situation when it happens to somebody underaged. And with that, we resume our remastered show right where we left off.
They're all gonna laugh at you! They're all gonna laugh at you! Number 1!
While the Belvedere AIDS episode had painfully awkward laugh track inclusions, at least the episode itself ended with a bit of hope and information that would be easy for the viewer to digest, no matter how uncomfortable it may have been to watch in certain places. This next show, to its credit, also does that, as most very special episodes tend to do. But because of just how rampant the laugh sweetening was used on this particular subject, I honestly couldn't see anything but this show sitting at the top of the list.
Now the world don't move to the beat of just one drum. What might be right for you may not be right for some.
Oh yeah, we're going there. Up until a certain point in my life, I legitimately thought that this was just one of those throwaway jokes from Family Guy.
All right, now I want you boys to scream real loud at my ass.
How wrong I was. Because this is an episode of television that actually happened. And before you call me out on the rules, yes, it's my understanding that Diff'rent Strokes was indeed filmed before a live studio audience. But once again, that didn't stop them from adding some audio sweetening to what the audience was watching that day. So much sweetening, in fact, that it'll seem pretty obvious that no sane human being would willingly laugh at some of the situations that are presented here. For those who are blessed not to have seen this episode yet, this program aired in 1983. In the episode, the owner of a bicycle shop, played by Gordon Jump, who was fresh off the end of the original WKRP in Cincinnati, takes a particular shine to Gary Coleman's Arnold and his friend Dudley. And when we say shine, we mean a giant flashing neon one that says, "Get out now!" And again, the message of the episode is a pretty frank one that many people should be able to teach their young ones about. But it's the way it's being presented that earns this show a top spot at number 1. Join us now as we present, in no particular order, all of the awkward laughs that this program decided to present to us. Endure.
What's the old saying? You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours.
You keep coming up with these presents, you can scratch me all over.
That's great, Arnold. You're sure some terrific passer-out.
I have a way with words when I put my mouth to it.
Now they're buying my clothes, they're buying my socks, they're buying my shirt, they're buying my pants.
You better buy a barrel before they buy your underwear.
I bet you're a whipped cream man, too,
Yeah.
Huh? All right, we'll buy that whipped cream up there. Boy, look at that. And I just know you're not going to be satisfied until you've got a cherry right on top there, huh?
Yeah.
You better eat it before it melts.
No, don't worry. The way I eat it, it won't have a chance to melt. My tongue's faster than a hummingbird's wings.
Why don't we just make it our little secret, huh?
You know something, Mr. Horton? You're sneaky.
Sneaky?
Yeah, I'm getting a whole new respect for sneaky.
The ladies are naked.
Except for the leather boots.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time we're actually going to be cutting this segment short because, number 1, this being a remastered show, you can already hear the original version all the way back at episode 17. Number 2, I really did not feel like cutting this segment again a second time because, a lot has happened in 6 years. I'm an uncle now to a young niece, and I wouldn't want her to listen to this stuff. And number 3, I think we all get the point by now. But again, if you want to hear this segment in its original context, head on over to episode 17 and listen to your heart's content. And now, the conclusion of this episode. You just heard probably the cringiest of moments ever put to PictureTube. Made even cringier by the fact that the people behind the show saw it necessary to condition the audience to laugh at things that would be par for the course on any given Law and Order series. Except this was supposed to be a sitcom. And once again, we concede that at least the show was trying to teach its viewers an important message, but it certainly could have been done without the laugh track.
You know, I didn't like the things Mr. Horton was trying to do in the bicycle shop, but some hugs and kisses are still okay.
And thankfully, 2 years later, Diff'rent Strokes would learn its lesson about handling sensitive topics when they did an episode about one of the kids getting kidnapped, and the show wisely decided to give the laugh track operator the week off.
You step out of line just once. You remember what I told you I would do? I will kill your parents, Sam.
But...
You hear me and understand me.
Yes, sir.
The key point to take away from these entries, and possibly the other ones that we missed, there's a right time to laugh at things, and there's a wrong time. These 7 examples are clearly moments where it happened at the wrong time, but even we realize that we may have missed moments or two that felt more deserving of our scorn. And if there was a moment that we missed, we invite you to give us an earful on our social feeds at Telehell Podcast. And hopefully in the future, we'll do another list of things that are worth laughing at for all the wrong reasons. Just try to stay away from bicycle shops from now on, okay?
It takes different strokes to move the world. Yes, it does. It takes different strokes to move the world.
Next time on Telehell, with all the cooping up we've been doing around here lately, I think it's time that we did a little spring cleaning around here.
It's the hit show everybody's talking about.
Sounds good.
A comedy so funny you'll laugh till you turn blue.
I look like a giant smurf.
We got it made.
Until then.
If it's not in Telehell, it's not worth a damn.
This week on But I Digress, since we already did a digression midway through this episode, we need to pick a backup topic to digress about. Lucky for us, during the holidays, I managed to get my hands on a copy of Lorne Michaels' biography. And even luckier, there's an entire section dedicated not just to the 5 years that he stepped away from SNL, but also more details as to how and why the new show was made that we didn't know about the first time. We'll share those details for as little as $3 a month on our Patreon at Telehell Podcast. And now, here are the rest of the credits. Telehell was written, produced, edited, and narrated by me, Justin Hart. All clips used in this program are protected under the Fair Use Doctrine of the U.S. Copyright Act of 1976, and all clips used come courtesy of their respective companies and owners. Some of the music used in this program comes courtesy of YouTube and their audio library service. Telehell is a production of Horton Road and is distributed by Libsyn. You know how I feel about the term New Year, New You. That's why our places to hear the show have stayed exactly the same. Everywhere you can hear a podcast, you'll find us at Telehell Podcast. Especially listen to us on our YouTube channel, which is at Telehell. And of course, do not forget to like, comment, rate, subscribe, and give us just some semblance of feedback as to whether or not we're screwing this up or not. Everywhere you look, it's at Telehell Podcast on Facebook, on Blue Sky, on Apartheid Clyde's page. It's all at Telehell Podcast. Or if you want to contact us directly, feel free to comment either directly on the episode itself at telehell.libsyn.com or our complaint line, telehellpodcast@gmail.com. One way or another, we'll hear you.
Another great show from Horton Road.